Shivaji was a pioneer in the real sense in building a navy against impossible forces and very difficult to fight forces. He stood his own ground. He did not, though he negotiated with the foreign forces, he did not compromise, and he punished them whenever necessary, when they needed to be punished. Even the British officials and the Portuguese officials, he imprisoned 12 British officials and did not allow anybody to ride roughshod over him. He was very clear that he would not allow his land to be conquered, and he was very clear that he would not allow others to dictate terms in India. The subject of my talk here is going to be specific. It is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his navy. And there is a reason I have chosen this subject. Last year in September 2022, the Indian Navy got a new octagonal symbol, emblem. And the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, dedicated the emblem as well as INS Vikrant to Chhatrapati Shivaji and called him the father of the Indian Navy. So I want to address this specific question. Why is Chhatrapati Shivaji the creator of a national navy? The second question that accompanies this one, and which accompanied it immediately after the Prime Minister's announcement, is why is he the father of the Indian Navy or the National Navy when we know that the Cholas had a big navy themselves? Number one, I must say that the adoption of the new emblem and the Prime Minister's dedication of that emblem to Chhatrapati Shivaji was the first official acknowledgement by any Indian government of Shivaji's contributions to creating a major national navy. Second, I found it very interesting that people suddenly remembered the Cholas when Chhatrapati Shivaji had been honored, when they had very conveniently forgotten the invisibilizing of the Cholas for so many decades. Now, to get to the basic point, Shivaji Maharaj Shivaji Raje Bhosle is born in 1630 in the Deccan. When he is born, the Mughal Empire is almost at the height of its glory. It gets to the height of its glory under Aurangzeb, because the area it covers under Aurangzeb is bigger than the area it has ever covered earlier. But still, it is an all conquering force, and it has conquered all of the northern parts of India, and it's pressing in on the Deccan. Now it wants to conquer the Deccan, the Mughal Empire. In the Deccan itself, there are four important forces. Apart from the minor forces, I am mentioning the four important sultanates that are there. One is the Adil Shahi kingdom of Bijapur. The second is the Nizam Shahi of Ahmednagar. The third is the Qutub Shahi of Golconda. Well, these are the three forces. I'm leaving out the Marathas for the moment. There are three forces there, which are, the sultanates in the Deccan. And the Mughals are trying to conquer the Deccan. The Deccani sultanates are fighting with the Mughals and also among themselves for control of territory. Shivaji Maharaj starts his political career and military career in his teenage years. And it is after the death of Afzal Khan, after he kills Afzal Khan of Bijapur, who has come to kill him instead. Around that time, he kills Afzal Khan in 1659. In 1657, 1658, when he is 27 and 28 years old, for the first time, Shivaji starts his naval activities. He has been dismissed as an irritant by the Bijapuri state for a long time, but after the killing of Afzal Khan, they take him very seriously. They start taking him very seriously. The Mughals also start seeing him as a real threat. And Aurangzeb, to give him his credit, never underestimates Shivaji. He knows that this man, however small he is said to be, represents a real danger to the empire right from the beginning, which is why in 1657 itself he gives a farman to crush the Maratha rebel. Now in 1657-58, Shivaji starts his naval activity, and to the north of Mumbai are three important coastal parts. To the immediate north of Mumbai is Thane and Bhiwandi. And Shivaji captures these two areas along the coast, along the Konkan coast. This is the north of the Konkan, and he captures these two areas. And he starts building his naval fleet. Now, this in itself is a major act of his, because he is a very small time rebel at that moment. He has not grown strong enough. He does not know whether he is going to survive on land, because the forces that are ranged against him are far more stronger, and he is building his forces. And many of the Marathas themselves are serving Bijapur, they are serving the Mughals. His own father has served Bijapur, has served the Nizam Shahi, and after the death of the Nizam Shahi in 1636 has come back to Bijapur for a brief while. In fact, when Shivaji Maharaj was born, Shahaji Raje was in the service of the Mughals. So the Marathas have had a tradition of serving one of these dominant forces. And here is a man, the son of a Jagirdar of Bijapur, who decides that he is going to be his own person and have his own independence. So his act is significant. Now, how does it stand out? If we look at the scene across India, from the time of the demise of the Chola kingdom, the demise of the Chola kingdom happens in the middle of the 13th century, in the 1250s to be precise. There are the Islamic invasions, and after that, for 4 centuries, there is not a single power in India that pays any attention to India's massive coastline. India has got a massive coastline. Maharashtra, the state I come from, at present has a 750 kilometers coastline. And India as a whole has a huge coastline. For 400 years, nobody pays any kind of attention to the coastline. The Mughals, they of course come from outside India. They do not aim to control the coastline. Bijapur does not control the coastline. The Nizam Shahi has not controlled the coastline. And Golconda has not controlled the coastline. So then who is in control of the seas and of India's vast coast? It is the foreign powers. Surprisingly, the Islamic powers are not in control of the coastline, in spite of the reputation of the Arabs as horse bearers, or those bringing in horses and being involved in that kind of trade. So the Portuguese have come to Goa in 1510, and they have started ruling Goa. They go to other parts of the western coast as well and start grabbing places like Bassein, which is Vasai today, just outside Mumbai. They take Cheul, which is near Alibag on the Konkan coast. They take other places. Then the British start coming in. The British take places all along the coastline in Rajapur, in the Konkan, and other places elsewhere. The French come in and take up a place on the eastern coast and start dominating that coast. And the Dutch, like the Portuguese, are everywhere. They're controlling various parts along the coast. So the naval power in India and control of the seas is in the hands of four foreigners: the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, and the French. And these powers are growing. Now, are the Muslims entirely absent? No, that's not true. Along the Konkan coast, we have the Siddhis. They are the African Muslims, the Abyssinian Muslims. But they have very limited power, and their control is restricted to the fort of Janjira, which is in the middle of the Konkan coastline, about 80 kilometers south of Mumbai. It's a powerful fort. It has 3 stories, in fact, in the sea, and they control it. But they act on behalf of the Mughals. They act sometimes on behalf of Bijapur. They sometimes owe their allegiance to the Nizam Shahi. They owe their allegiance to various forces. The interesting thing is, if say the Badshah of the Mughal Empire or the Sultan of Bijapur or the Begum Badi Sahiba or whatever she is of any of the sultanates wants, or their families want to go to Mecca on a pilgrimage, or if they want to import things or export things, they have to rely on passports and licenses obtained by these four foreign powers: the British, the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the French. So it is in this context that Shivaji recognizes the significance of the seas in terms of both defense and trade. So he stands alone among all his Indian contemporaries in doing so. And that is why he is a visionary. So after 400 years, he not only emerges as a rebel who poses the biggest and the greatest challenge to the Mughal Empire, which is at the height of its glory, and when he is nowhere in comparison with the size and the might of that empire, but he also sees things that others have completely failed to see. And he starts building his fleet. Now, how does he build his fleet? The Marathas have no military technology. The Indians have no military technology. The local fisher folk do have military technology, but that is very basic and restricted to creating machwas, which is the fishing vessels. So, where does that technology come from? Shivaji starts engaging Portuguese experts to build naval vessels for the Marathas. How does he do that? He starts paying them more than the Portuguese are paying them. And the Portuguese write letters of complaint saying that their people have gone over to Shivaji's side because he's paying them more money to build their vessels. And he's being very intelligent and very smart and very clever. He pays them money so that the vessels get built. At the same time, he starts engaging local communities. There are the Kolis. You would have heard of the Kolis we call them the Kolis in Marathi. It's L instead of L. But the Kolis of who are the original inhabitants of Mumbai, whatever many claimants might say, but the original inhabitants of Mumbai are the Kolis and the Bhandaris. These are the two communities of Mumbai. So he starts engaging, these are fishing communities, and he starts engaging both communities in his naval work. Many of those people are very hesitant. They are wondering what he's doing. They are unable to fathom and to understand what he's trying to do. But slowly he wins them over to his side and he starts building his fleet. Initially, the British there's this buzzing sound. So initially, the British are very dismissive. So in the early 1660s, around 1664, they write a letter. It's in the factory records. They say, because the building of the naval vessels is very slow and it takes time. These things take a lot of time. The building of naval technology, it takes decades. So they are very dismissive of the technology. He says that, these Maratha vessels, just a single frigate of ours, if we send them, we can destroy his entire forces. But he persists. How does he persist? Because of the grit and courage of his people, and because his leadership qualities are such that the building of that technology continues. He continues his conflict with these various forces. Sometimes his relations are transactional because he is negotiating with these forces for technology as well. Sometimes they are seeking his help against the Mughals. Sometimes he is seeking their help against the Siddhis. And the Portuguese and the British, they keep on helping the Siddhis of Janjira against Shivaji, because Shivaji is trying to conquer the fort of Janjira, knowing that it is strategically extremely important to have any sort of control on the Konkan, the western Konkan coastline. So these sorts of very complex negotiations are on. Sometimes there's conflict, sometimes there's negotiation. The result is that by 1674, the year in which he is coronated as king, he is 44 years old then, he has built 57 combat vessels of his own, which is a remarkable achievement considering he has done it in only 15 years or so. It's not even fully 20 years, but 15 years. He's built 57 combat vessels. Eventually, they grow to 66 in a few years' time. And the British and the Portuguese have drastically reduced their perception of Shivaji's naval fleet. Now, they are saying that, well, his ships seem to be smart because he's got different kinds of ships now. One, he has got what are known as gurabs. Gurabs are the bigger ships which can carry plenty of ammunition, which can carry armed personnel. But the disadvantage is they move a little slowly in the waters. But to make up for that disadvantage, he's got medium-sized ships which can carry a lot of ammunition and are relatively speedier. Then he has got a third category of vessels which are known as shibars. Now these shibars are small vessels, but they are very sleek and they are very swift moving. So they move very quickly in the waters and are very useful in times of armed conflict to move about. And the whole Maratha element was that of surprise. We know that guerrilla warfare and surprise. So these vessels were going to be useful in that regard. And he also has the regular machwas built with the help of the local fishermen because they are capable of building those machwas. So their perception of Shivaji changes completely, and not only does he have these vessels for combat, but by 1674, the year in which he gets coronated, the total number of his vessels, if we include the trading vessels, because he's got plenty of trading vessels now, the total number of his vessels come to almost 700. Not all of them have been built by him, but he has either bought them or engaged them in his activities. He's carrying on trade with West Asia by this time. And the British write in their factory records that he is in control of most of the most remarkable ports on the Konkan coastline, on the western coast. The word they've used is remarkable. And from every port, he has control of 8 or 9 ports, they say. And from every port, 2 or 3 naval vessels go every year to West Asia to do trade. He cleverly uses these combat vessels for defense purposes. The Portuguese get very wary of him because he has got this power now. One day their reports reach them that he's going to attack Goa, and he takes his naval vessels there, but he bypasses Goa and attacks Karwar instead and goes back. he attacks Surat twice, we know that, 1664, and the second raid is in 1670. In 1670, the Mughals are very scared that he is going to get to Surat by way of the sea, because now he's powerful enough to do that. And in 1670, he indeed goes all the way up. The Maratha vessels indeed go all the way up to the Surat coast and they come back. Now, there's a reason for these operations. These are known as what we call in naval terminology show the flag operations. Basically, just show that you're around, that you cannot be taken for granted and you can't ride roughshod over me. Yeah. So by the time he has established his naval force, the British and the Portuguese have come to the conclusion that he is a very powerful enough force on land. If he grows similarly powerful, and he is indeed growing similarly powerful in the seas, it's going to be a very difficult thing for them. The growth of Shivaji's navy was gradual, and 57 combat vessels in a matter of 15 years. Numerically, it may not look big to us, but considering the adverse circumstances in which he was building his own independent state, it was an impossible thing to do, and it laid the foundations of what we may truly call an indigenous naval fleet, because he involved the Kolis, the Bhandaris, even the local Muslims on the western coastline in his navy. So ordinary Kolis and Bhandaris started participating in naval activities, even in terms of defense, which only the foreigners were doing earlier. So truly it was an indigenous navy. It was also inclusive. Shivaji was truly creating a Hindu polity, I would call it a Hindu polity, but one that was inclusive. And the example of that inclusiveness lies in what he did with his navy. Two of his navy chiefs, one is Daulat Khan, the other is Darya Sarang Vendji. Darya Sarang Vendji may sound like a Hindu name, but it's a Muslim. Two of his naval chiefs were Muslims. So he did not hesitate to appoint Muslims as his naval chief, as his naval chiefs. There were other Hindu chiefs that he appointed. And one of these naval chiefs, of course, he dismissed immediately within a year's time. Nobody knows what happened, what the circumstances were. But the fact is that they were appointed as navy chiefs. So he laid the foundations of what is a truly native navy for Indians after a gap of 400 years. And the Cholas, while undoubtedly they were great, nobody can deny their greatness, and the intention certainly cannot be to deny their greatness. Shivaji truly laid the foundations of the national navy. Kanoji Angre and other Marathas took it to further heights of glory after Shivaji's death. The navy collapsed after about 50, 60 years or so because of internal conflict, and because the Angre brothers also fought among themselves and just destroyed everything. So internal conflict, internecine conflict has always been the bane of the Indians. But Shivaji was a pioneer in the real sense in building a navy against impossible forces and very difficult to fight forces. He stood his own ground. Though he negotiated with the foreign forces, he did not compromise, and he punished them whenever necessary, when they needed to be punished. Even the British officials and the Portuguese officials, he imprisoned 12 British officials and did not allow anybody to ride roughshod over him. He was very clear that he would not allow his land to be conquered, and he was very clear that he would not allow others to dictate terms in India. Thank you. That's